in the end. You've got to be happy with that. The fans certainly sounded happy.
Yeah, I think, definitely. And I think manager, players, everyone here watching tonight, from a Leicester perspective, delighted with that second half performance. Total contrast to the first 45, really. I mean, we spoke about it. We said that perhaps go and back themselves a little bit more, go and be a bit more adventurous, get wired into, for want of a better term, Tottenham. And they did that. They unsettled them. And they've, over the course of the 90 minutes, you can't begrudge Leicester that point. Second 45, probably had the better chances, didn't they? Really? Jamie Vardy could have been the double goal scoring hero, but it wasn't quite to be. But it was dramatic enough. But what encouragement for the season going ahead. Steve Cooper's really got something to put to the players and go, there you go, boys. That's what you're capable of. Repeat that as many times as you can and give yourselves a great chance.
I mean, we're just seeing pictures now of Steve Cooper. He's applauding the home fans. They're applauding back. They like what they saw in that second half, Ewan.
Oh, Dan, blimey, wow. Unbelievable. I mean, stark contrast to the first half, let's be honest, where we stood off them. I thought we showed them far too much respect. Marty used the word bravery. You throw belief in, and they showed everything in that second half. And it started quite early where there was a ball played into Son just on the halfway line, and James Justin, who I thought was outstanding defensively tonight against Son. He was there. He was on that front foot. He nicked the ball off him. He played it forward. And you looked at Wilfred Ndidi's position in that second half. He played 5 yards further up. He sort of stood on Bentancur, who never really got a kick. Bobby Decordova-Reid on that left-hand side, he came sort of quite narrow, which meant that Christensen, who was brilliant in the second half, got forward and put crosses in. I mean, absolutely magnificent second half.
Yeah, Jerry, you're still obviously with us, having done co-commentary there. Talk us through what we're seeing on the pitch right now. There's some fantastic reactions, aren't there, from all those players and supporters alike?
Yeah, absolutely. And rightly so. The second half performance was, what we've become accustomed to with this football club. And the fans, you see the reaction from the fans. And the players appreciating the fans. That was a proper game of football in that second half. And really ruffled Tottenham's fella. I tell you what, it was the injury to Bentancur that sort of took the sting out of Leicester's momentum slightly. Up until that point, Leicester had all the momentum. Yes, Tottenham had one or two chances in the second half, but you've got to say Leicester put them under severe pressure, and Tottenham, couldn't deal with it at times. They looked really uncomfortable. It was only when that break in the game came, Tottenham sort of got themselves back in, made a few substitutions. But it was a proper game of football, end-to-end stuff at times. A great advert for Premier League football.
Yeah, and I guess this is almost what the supporters needed to see, certainly in that second half, Jerry. And now we're seeing the reaction from them all. There's a lot that have stayed, haven't there? And they're applauding to a man, each player and each member of staff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, Dan, I'm not saying these guys aren't talented football, of course they are, but you've got a lot of young players in this team who have no Premier League experience, and it's going to take them time to come to terms a lot. They go away next week to Fulham. That's going to be a completely different scenario to playing at home against a good Tottenham team. So they're going to have to learn on the job, a lot of them. But all you can do is, when you get on that pitch, is give everything. And that's exactly what Leicester did this evening. They gave everything they had. The subs came on and did well, and they left it all out there on the pitch, and they came away with a spirited 1-1 draw. And that's a good start. That's a good start for this Leicester City team at the beginning of this season.
And just judging from the reactions on social media, guys, that you're looking there and you see similar things. They say not great in the first half, but second half, what a spirited display that was, and how good that was. And there's so much positivity now to move into that Fulham game at the weekend, whereas after the first half, or had it stayed maybe that way, that might not have been as much the case.
Amazing how quick things can change, isn't it? I mean, we're all a bit pessimistic and doom and gloomy at half time, really. We're trying to put a positive front on it, and it was a struggle because there wasn't too much to get excited about, really. Leicester sort of semi-fortunate to be just a 1 goal behind. But then that second half, I mean, it's just what the doctor ordered, isn't it? Or Steve Cooper asked for, I'm sure, because he knows as well as anyone, what is needed to get a team through the whole season. What you saw there at the end, like the players picked up on it, the supporters picked up on it, and then together they sort of joined forces rather than being sort of sceptical, as the fans sort of were a bit in the first half, sort of trying to work out exactly what the game plan was, almost, wasn't it? But then everyone was buying into it in the second half, and it was working, and you're getting joy from it, and people feeding on that, and it just kept evolving. As Jerry says, and you mentioned it to me when I was watching the game, the injury to Bentancur sort of brought an end to that surge that Leicester were building, and it was brilliant to see, really, and hugely encouraging. And that's why at the end of the game there, the players, only a point at home, but if you look at it in context, the magnitude of it is quite profound, really, in terms of how it sets Leicester up for the rest of the season. But walking around, they're appreciating. It's not a lap of honour. It was a lap of appreciation mutually between the fans and the players there, and they're bringing everyone in together, which Steve Cooper's mentioned, and a number of us have. It's going to be a joint effort this year. It's not going to be the odd individual who's going to win you a game on his own. They've got to work their socks off, supply themselves until they're absolutely out on their feet, and then bring the subs on and re-energise. And the manager can manage that situation through the season, and the supporters will back them all the way. And I'm sure they will, especially if they've got something to cheer like they did in the second half.
I mean, we spoke about energy, intensity, quality at half-time. They showed all those things, all those things that you need to go on and be successful as a side. I mean, in the first half, the lads were sort of going in 1s and 2s to close down, where in stark contrast to the second half, they're going in 5 and 6s. And it goes to show, Dan, it doesn't matter who you're against, what standard of team or player that you're up against. If you give them time and space, they will play all night long, they will hurt you, they will keep the ball. You get in their faces, you go hunting, you get your tackles in, you get close to players, don't care who you are, they will struggle. And that's what Spurs did in the second half, just because the Leicester lads were on that front foot. Whatever Steve Cooper said at half-time, it absolutely worked, and they got the Leicester fans involved in the game. And on another night, could have won it. I mean, Spurs had a couple of chances early in the second half. Hermanson made some good saves, which you'd expect him to, because he's a top-class goalkeeper. I turned around to you and said that we'll get something out of this. Just get the feeling that they'd had a few chances, they hadn't taken them. Yeah, they hadn't taken them. And I just thought the way Leicester had started that second half, it was there to get something from.
Yeah, if I'm totally honest, I wasn't really seeing it, was I? I said to you, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
And then, bang, 1 minute later, Leicester get the goal. And then, probably a bit extreme to say the game was turned on its head, but things changed dramatically, didn't they?
10 minutes it was.
Yeah, they did.
And Vardy had that chance, didn't he, when he was put through? Great football, by the way, that led to that.
Yeah, some excellent play.
And what we did, we made Brennan Johnson and Son run the other way towards their own goal, which they didn't like to do. You look at the times Victor Christensen got in on that left-hand side. I thought he was brilliant in the second half, both defensively and in an attacking sense. He puts a really good ball in for Jamie Vardy's goal from the left-hand side, which we recycle, and Fatima puts a great ball in to Jamie Vardy on that back post. And I mean, he loves scoring goals. Indeed, his header, where he probably didn't get the power that he needed to beat the Spurs goalkeeper.
Chest and hit it, maybe?
Possibly at time.
Maybe.
But I mean, they have to look at that second half, Dan, and think that's the standard that's needed to be successful in this league.
That's the key.
Yeah.
It's achieving that level of, that word again, intensity that people mention about or that level of performance, but doing it regularly. You're not going to play like that for 90 plus minutes every game, but certainly in large sections of the game and in spurts, it's going to be required.
But I guess, Jerry, it's about then, if you go by what Matt is saying there, it's about then staying in the game for as long as you possibly can, so that when the moments come for you, you can do what Matt's just said.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously you've got to stay in the game, and I looked at one point in the first half that wasn't going to be the case, but I think they had 4 or 5 clear-headed opportunities, Tottenham, in that first half, and thankfully only one of them went in the back of the net. They're in the game. The half-time team talk's massive. He changes things up. He doesn't allow them to be comfortable. Tottenham had overloads on both wings in that first half. And he sorted that out by switching the tactics. And then all of a sudden, they get the tails up, Leicester. And all of a sudden this, I wouldn't call Tottenham a juggernaut, but, they're a big club with some big players. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, that old Leicester are causing us a few issues. And who else but Jamie Vardy to get his back level just by using all that experience that he has. So having him on the pitch was vital. And obviously we've got legs, in Fatawu and Buonanotte, Mavadidi coming on, McAteer coming on. They've all got good legs. James Justin, Christensen, they're all fit guys. So, yeah, it's just key elements. There's key elements in a game of football, especially when you're playing against so-called better teams, that you have to, and one of them is making sure you stay in the game and going the full 90 odd minutes, as we've seen tonight.
And I guess, Jerry, obviously we go into Fulham next week, but they can take confidence from this tonight. Ewan's rightly said it will be a different game, that down in London, of course, away from home, but you keep those same principles that you've just said there. Yeah,
that's right. Principles are the same. You're dealing with a different pressure. You're the away team. Fulham, to use a Matthew Elliott term, are semi-experienced at Premier League level now. They've stayed in the league for a few seasons, so they'll be expecting to turn Leicester over. So Leicester have to go there and deal with, Craven Cottage, what that brings, the atmosphere, what the Fulham as a team bring. They were, narrowly defeated at the weekend, weren't they? And so they'll be desperate to bounce back the first game at home. So it's going to be a different sort of game, but your principles have to remain the same.
It's amazing football, isn't it? From the first half, and we were trying to keep it positive as much as we could at half time, obviously. But it didn't look great. Not great, but obviously Tottenham had the majority of the chances. In fact, all of the chances. Leicester had the one half effort from Bobby Decordova-Reid. But we said if they
still clinging on to that one, basically.
They're in this game.
You have to be respective to the opposition. You have to be, especially a team with the quality that Spurs have. But I thought in that first half we showed them too much respect. We sort of stood off them. Not fearful, but probably didn't want to push too far forward because of the pace and the quality that they have in key forward areas, which can hurt you. Everything that the lads didn't do in the second half. I mean, really played high up the pitch, won the ball back. Harry Winks' quality shone through in that second half. Both centre halves, I thought, were outstanding. Defensively in their own penalty box. Hermansen, when needed to be, he. I mean, there's a couple of times where balls have been sort of slipped through into the penalty box, and he's so quick to come out and gather the ball. As I say, Dan, that's the standard that needs to be set. It's been set in that second half, and hopefully the lads can carry on.
Yeah, I think in that first half, in trying to be overly safe and secure, you end up not being as intense in your work. And Leicester was sort of traipsing around, almost plodding around in the back end of that first 45 minutes. And Tottenham would stroke the ball around at will, and they were making their way into advanced areas, relatively unopposed. Leicester didn't force any mistakes, any even pressure on the ball. And Tottenham were a clever team. They were creating overloads that were causing problems down Leicester's right-hand side in particular. And then it was ball after ball in the box, and then runs in the box, and it was set pieces. Sooner or later, something's going to give, and it did. And it was slightly fortunate more didn't give way. But so they turn it round second half and change of mentality, change of approach, and it's not always going to pay off. Sometimes you might go in fast, might go in tight against the centre forward, and he gets spun, and he's clean through, and I don't know, fizzes it across, and Son's there, slide it in the back of the net. But they took a little bit of a gamble in the second half, and to a large extent, it did pay off tonight.
Well, it absolutely did pay off, didn't it, really? You take that point, I guess, I think that's the general consensus from the Leicester City supporters, that they are very happy with the point.
They're happy, sorry, you're jumping in, but it shows you how much hard work and application at home is needed just to get a point. Yeah. So, it's not a time to say, we got it sussed, we know what we've got to do. There's a hell of a lot of hard work, but the manager and the players know that.
I mean, if you think to 2 years ago, last time round in the Premier League, only won 5 games at home, which was a massive Achilles heel for the club, and probably one of the main reasons why we got relegated at the end of the day. I mean, that's a good start. It's only one game. It's a long old season, but it's a really positive way to start. And as I said, got the fans involved. The fans really enjoyed that second half. You could see Steve Cooper trying to get more out of the crowd. He was screaming to his players to squeeze and push up the field. And that's exactly what they did in the end.
Yeah, very much so. Jerry, let's talk about some of the individuals then. We've done a bit on Jamie Vardy already. We have to talk about him even more. People have been saying a lot on social media. Basically, he pointed to the Premier League badge on his arm and to the Tottenham fans, and then said he's got one, and then pointed at them and said they've got 0, which is always Jamie Vardy being Jamie Vardy. And we said from the outset before we came on air, like, if Leicester are to have a good season, they need goals from Jamie Vardy, and he started that tonight.
Yeah, they need goals from all over the pitch, not just from Jamie Vardy, but if you just analyse the goal, he keeps the ball in play. There's a crossfield ball from Buonanotte that he actually heads, and Leicester grapple with it, recycle it. The cross comes in from Christensen, goes all the way across the face of goal to Fatawi. But watch Jamie Vardy, all the Tottenham players get sucked towards the ball, and this is where his experience comes in. He doesn't panic. He doesn't think, I've got to make an near post run. He stands still in the box, and it's a free header. Now, that's the difference between an experienced centre forward and a young raw talent trying to make his way in the Premier League. And that's where Jamie Vardy has got the edge over everybody else in this league. I'm not saying obviously there's lots of quality centre forwards, but from a Leicester City point of view, initially, you can't buy that experience. Yes, you can teach it, or you can talk about it, but that's just pure class, pure experience coming into play there. Free header at the back post.
There was a tiny little suggestion that VAR might have got involved. Ewan wasn't there, but straight away I think you said it's tight. It was tight, in fairness, but he looked okay. And then celebrations were there. The roof absolutely came off the stadium.
And that's where Tags has alluded to it, Dan. That's where experience comes into it. If that's a younger centre forward who's a bit more eager, he goes in maybe half a second earlier, and he is caught offside. Where Jamie Vardy's just bided his time, bought himself that little half a second to a second, and timed his run to absolute perfection. Because he knew where Abdul Fattah was going to put that ball, and he put it right on his forehead, and it was such a cool. And that's what I like about Jamie Vardy. It was a tough first half for him. The service up to him wasn't great. He worked, he chased, without too much enjoyment, to be fair. But he just stays in the game. He puts defenders under pressure. He harries. He'll chase lost causes at times. But he knows that when that chance comes, he's got to be alive to take that opportunity. And that's exactly. And he was so unlucky with the second one, by the way. I mean, it's a really good strike. The goalkeeper's done ever so well. I don't know if he sort of sat on the ball or got his left hand to it, but he was Jamie Vardy, wasn't he? You know, you wouldn't expect anything else. And what's that goal? 137 in the Premier League, I think, for him now. Yeah. So brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, he keeps going. He has done all through his time at Leicester, probably throughout his career in earlier days that I didn't see. But there's been many periods in his time here at the club that he hasn't featured in the games too often. It's just in
and he doesn't get frustrated.
No, exactly. He just keeps going. Yeah. He doesn't throw his arms up.
No.
He doesn't look up to the skies. He doesn't have a moan at other players. When sometimes he probably
should do
half entitled to. Yeah, but he's the ultimate professional in that respect, and just keeps going and going, and so many different qualities to his game. It's almost boring talking about him because we've done it so many times before, haven't we? But a lot of other players deserve credit tonight as well. But in particular, what the back four there. You said it before the game. Steve Cooper was going to base it on a solid foundation, and even when Leicester were not cut open, but overpowered and outplayed at times in the first half, the defence still stood reasonably firm, didn't they? Reasonably firm, and in fact, it was called over Reed whose runner Porro got across him. He tracked all the way back, didn't finish the job off. The centre halves and full-backs,
solid.
Yeah, applied themselves pretty well tonight.
Right, you're sick of talking about Jamie Vardy, because we always talk about
Sorry, James. Sorry.
Someone we've never talked about then, Facundo Buonanotte, on loan from Brighton.
Decent.
Yeah,
can play, can't they? You saw that first few touches. As Tags mentioned, something of an unknown quantity, despite the fact he's played in the Premier League. And sort of, his profile was such that he didn't take too much notice of him. But yeah, you look at the bare facts, really, his age and the relative experience that he's got at that age and level he played at. You think must be a bit of a player there. Bit of a conundrum, I suppose, the fact they're allowing him to go out on loan, but. His age, is probably a factor in that. But yeah, lovely touch, wasn't he? I mean, he was the one shining light in the first half, really. Yeah, Leicester struggled to string anything together, really. But it was when the ball fell to him, in little touches, a couple of little nutmegs, a couple of surges. He got past 1-2 players, but then unfortunately there was 3 and 4 waiting. But really promising, I thought. And I was disappointed when he came off. I thought, if anyone was going to create something to give Leicester that one more big chance, I thought it was going to be him. But obviously, tiredness comes into play.
I mean, let's be honest, he's got 2 caps for Argentina at 19, and they don't give caps away, to be fair. I mean, he's got good balance, good awareness, good change of direction, loves running with the ball at his feet, a lovely looking left foot, works hard as well, which is always important. He can be really, as Matty said, I think he was the one sort of shining light in a slightly disappointing first half. He showed what he's capable of doing, to be fair. He can be really pleased with his night's work, Dan. Yeah,
Jerry, I'll let you go to the defenders then. I was going to pick one out, but it's quite difficult to do that because all 4 of them, Mads included, he made a number of good saves, didn't he? But in terms of the 4 defenders, who stood out for you this evening?
I've got to say, Voss, for me, was a man mountain today. Got his body in the way of everything. Read the game superbly well. I don't think I've ever seen him play like that before. So, and I really want to give him. I know we're not doing man of the matches, but because I'll give it to Buonanotte. But he comes a close second for me. And you're right, James Justin, Christensen, who's had a tough time here at Leicester, both stuck to their task manfully, but when the crunch comes to the crunch inside the box, inside the penalty area, where the goal is, for me, Fass stood out.
Yeah, this is a fair comment. I think anyone across that back 4 line, they all did a superb job, really. Justin, he was under pressure, getting overloaded in the first half, but he stuck to his task amazingly well. And I mean, it was like a triangle, wasn't it, of Son, Maddison and Udogie in the first 45. and Fatawa was doing his best, but Leicester was struggling to contain him. But second half, Son was pretty much out of the equation, wasn't he? Really had a couple of sort of slight glimmers of goal, but before the touch, well, as soon as the touch was made, Justin came flying across. Vestergaard, people think, yes, yourself included, think you might find it difficult at his age, and he's not the most mobile. Not that I'm one to talk about mobility, but
you are. You're one to talk about the lack of it.
Yeah, to be fair, I know a lot about the lack of it, but he cruised through it really. You know, if you can say cruising, because Leicester were under pressure, but you know, like Jerry mentioned there, where it really mattered, in and around your own penalty box, Leicester were relatively solid there. And,
they were on the front foot, Matt, as well.
Yeah,
which,
nice. They were bright and alert, weren't they? And
yeah, you know, not letting forwards come off and get turned and get at them. They were more, you know, proactive rather than reactive this evening.
Yeah.
Which I didn't see a lot of that last season. I don't know if that was the intent of the manager. But I think it suits him.
A different sort of game tags, wasn't it, last year? You know,
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But I just think it suits them. Like James Justin, at times struggled with the way Maresca wanted to play. But tonight, I mean, he looks every bit the player he was when he broke into the England squad.
Yeah. Well, I think right through, the second half, right through the team, you could see, I think it's fair to say, like, they played with some fire in their bellies, which...
Do you think that came from the manager at half time?
I would say a large part of it. Yeah, I would say he would sort of try and get that message across in a probably more cultured way than that, but rather than just lads get stuck into them, get fired in. But you know, it sort of almost, it sounds a bit too basic, but that's what it sort of comes down to. Really, because they can do, you know, they're good footballers. That's why they're playing in the Premier League. But they're up against some other good footballers, some of them really good. So you need to combat that with something a little bit extra. And again, there are different reasons. Like Jerry mentioned James Justin there, I agree. I mean, it's a little bit more up and at them, sort of cut and thrust about the play. Some players kick into gear, don't they? You know, they're not quite at home with the refined, cultured, tippy-tappy, for want of a better phrase. Now, the time and place for a combination of both, really. But tonight, after that first half performance, they weren't going to outplay Tottenham tonight, were they? With pretty football. That became apparent. Although how can we match that?
We did for periods in that second half.
Yeah, but it wasn't in terms of like... It was more like breaking a play up, wasn't it? And creating a tempo and then play a ball forward. They didn't press Tottenham back. They did for a 5-10 minute period, maybe. But you know what I'm saying? It was that sort of, the football was going that way. Something needs to change. And they upped the ante. They got wide in a little bit, didn't they? And collectively, they sort of, I don't know, puffed their chest out and right, we're going to have a go. We're going to go down fighting here. And that proved a turning point for me. And then hopefully they can continue that mentality. So it's going to be a different approach to last season. Still play good football, still be good individual footballers, but they've got to provide that robustness about them, aggressiveness.
I think we dictated the play to them far better in the second half. They did in the first half. They sort of dictated how Leicester played because of the possession that they had, because of how high they played. But in that second half, I thought Leicester dictated the play superbly.
Well, thank you very much, Ewan. Nice final summary there of that game. Leicester picking up their first point of the season in the first game. Thanks to Jerry Taggart as well on co-commentary. Cheers to the both of you. We've got plenty more coming up for you on Fox's Hub. The games come again on Saturday, of course, don't they? That game away against Fulham. Join us for that from 2 p.m. We'll be live with that. And then Tranmere in the Carabao Cup, back here again at King Power Stadium. That is live from 6:45. So join us for both of those as we continue this new Premier League season. Thanks again to both Matt, Ewan and Jerry. And thanks to Jamie Vardy as well. Leicester City picking up a point in Steve Cooper's first game in charge. Good night.